on demand and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 11.
Good evening, I'm Olivia Calfee. Bluegrass icon Bobby Osborne was laid to rest today at a service in Nashville. Osborne was 91 years old when he died. The Leslie County native was still performing and teaching here in the mountains until the very end, and his music will live on. Ellie Bird shows us the people who are responsible for making the legend's last recording ever.
The first-generation bluegrass legend Bobby Osborne was laid to rest near Nashville. Before his unexpected passing, he was working on an album with C.J. Lewandowski. Little did they know it would be his last.
It's sad. It's a really sad day, but also it's really good to know that there's still new Bobby Osborne music that's going to come out.
During one of the sessions, Lewandowski says Osborne said out of the blue, "How about we re-record Rocky Top?" And they did, 55 years later.
He was in there and he didn't know that his microphone was on, and he was just kind of going over the words and humming and warming his voice up. And he said, well, this, and he's just talking to himself. Well, this will probably be the last time I record this one.
The album was recorded in Nashville since Osborne couldn't travel far. But Dave Maggard, the owner of Sound Biscuit Studios in Sevier County, is working on the tracks. He says it's an honor to work with a pioneer in bluegrass.
It's hard to explain. There's a lot to it, and we all kind of I think we excel in certain areas, and there's certain things that I do that I think helped to make this what it's going to be.
The album will include at least 9 tracks, 8 of them including Osborne's voice. Lewandowski says he and Osborne were best friends, even giving him his tour bus. He says this project is Osborne's last gift to him.
Hopefully I get to record music for the rest of my life, but there's never going to be a project like this ever again that's going to be this meaningful to me and important. This is...
He says to expect some special guests to be featured on the album who meant a lot to Osborne. The album is set to be released on December 7th, Osborne's birthday. In Knoxville, I'm Ellie Bird, WVLT News.
The project was set to be released on June 30th, and Osborne passed on the 27th. The album will include his last version of Rocky Top ever recorded. Drunk drivers will now have to pay child support for kids whose parents were killed or permanently disabled in a crash. Bellamy's law went into effect July 1st. Mothers Against Drunk Driving is an organization that does a lot to spread awareness on this issue. Regional Executive Director Alex Audie says this helps hold drunk drivers accountable.
This is another reason that people will think twice before making the decision to consume alcohol or other drugs and get behind the wheel. It is another level of accountability, and it is another consequence that they can and will face. And so we hope it's just another reason for people to think twice before they make a dangerous and deadly decision.
Audie says this will help with drunk driving, but says she and other people with her organization will continue advocating and working to prevent drunk driving. Folks throughout the Commonwealth now have a better chance of getting help with their substance use disorders. This is partly because of the Career Act, introduced by Senator Mitch McConnell and Congressman Andy Barr. The bill provides funding to addiction recovery programs to be able to support patients getting back in the workforce.
Everybody knows somebody that's suffering from substance abuse anymore. It's become such a sad disease that's happened to people, that's took so many loved ones away from people, that it's a need and stuff that I think, and especially here, because a lot of the bigger areas and stuff have more resources than we do kind of in the small towns.
Mountain Comprehensive Care Center, the Isaiah House, and St. Elizabeth Medical Center all receive funding from a Career Act program. A former Kentucky State Police trooper has died. Will Pope served as a trooper from both Post 9 and 10 from 2016 to 2019. Officials say he resigned from that position to become a lineman. Pope had also served as a patrolman for the Harlan Police Department. Officials did not provide information on how he died. A grand jury has formally indicted the man accused of killing a Scott County deputy. Police say 45-year-old Stephen Shing shot and killed Deputy Caleb Conley during a traffic stop on I-75 back in May. Last month, Attorney General Daniel Cameron announced that his office was taking over the prosecution against Shing. Today, Cameron's office announced that a grand jury has indicted Shing on several charges in the case, including murder of a police officer, possession of a handgun, and wanton endangerment.
Had some stormy conditions earlier this evening, but the good news, we're quiet as we head through the overnight. Here's the view from our Pikeville Medical Center camera overlooking downtown, and you see quiet conditions. No rain out there right now. 70 the current reading in Pikeville. It's where a lot of us are, within a degree or two of 70 in the Big Sandy and the Kentucky River Valley, where we saw some of those showers and storms a little bit earlier on this afternoon. 72 in London, 70 in Williamsburg, still 78 in Monticello at 11:05 p.m. All the showers and storms continue to diminish. One more north of north of Moorhead, that should try to work in during the overnight. Your forecast first as you maybe pour that bowl of breakfast cereal in the morning on to start off your Friday. Upper 60s to near 70 as we head through the rest of your morning hours with the cloudiness and fogginess with us. Details on when some showers and storms could return in just a few minutes. Olivia?
All right, thank you, Evan. A KYTC crew in Knott County was recognized today after they saved the life of a young man in May. 22-year-old Hunter McLeod was traveling through Knott County when the gravel truck he was driving overturned, pinning him inside. Crew 344 in Knott County responded with heavy equipment and assisted first responders in lifting the truck and freeing McLeod. McLeod was sent to a hospital in Tennessee with life-threatening injuries and lost his arm, but walked out under his own power soon after.
He did walk out of the hospital in 3 days.
Yeah.
It happened on a Monday, and on Thursday night I posted pictures of him walking out of the hospital. They come in and asked him on the wheelchair, and he said, nope. So I'm walking out.
Members of the crew were given Heroic Safety Awards from KYTC and a Highway Heroes Award from the Kentucky Department of Highway Safety. McLeod added that just 6 months after the crash, he is already back on the dirt track and racing once again. 2 solar energy projects are now providing communities with renewable power here in Kentucky. One of the projects spans more than 56,000 panels at the CVG Airport Air Hub in northern Kentucky. The other is a 50-megawatt solar farm in Garrett County at Turkey Creek Farm. The projects are led by Amazon, who say they are building 3 more.
We'll have 5 renewable energy investments in the state of Kentucky that'll power enough energy for 85,000 homes a year when they're fully operational.
One of those renewable projects will be coming to Madison County. Rose says that project is set to bring 400 megawatts of clean energy to the local grid. Another company, Eadland Renewables, is working to bring a solar farm to Martin County as well. Work to destroy the final chemical weapons stored at the Bluegrass Army Depot is nearly complete. Officials with the Army say it's close to finishing the destruction of more than 100,000 projectiles and rockets. The stockpile is the last remaining declared chemical weapons in the world. The New York Times reports destruction of the lethal stockpile could be completed as early as tomorrow. A 1997 treaty called for the elimination of an entire category of weapons of mass destruction, setting the stage for the destruction. Coming up, the University of Kentucky is studying the impact of artificial intelligence on higher education. According to the Herald Leader, the committee is made up of members from various backgrounds. The group will look at developing research around AI and its impacts on classrooms, healthcare, and beyond. The group hopes their research will help the university understand AI and how it can be utilized correctly. Last week, the Supreme Court ruled against President Biden's plan to wipe out student loan debt for millions of Americans. Jessica Umbro spoke with an economic expert on the impact of both relieving and not relieving student loans.
It's awful easy to boil these issues down to kind of simple talking points, but they are complex.
Dr. Michael Clark, director for the Center for Business and Economic Research at the University of Kentucky, says determining the impact of student loan forgiveness is not a simple equation.
As politicians, whether that be Biden or anyone else in elected office, are considering different types of policies, it's really useful for them to think about the idea of this is going to cost something. What is it going to change? What type of benefits are we going to get as a result of that? And how do those compare?
One concern with student loan forgiveness is incentivizing unhealthy personal economic choices.
If they think that at some point in the future the government may do a student loan forgiveness program, they may look at this and say, okay, well, I can take on this debt and there's a good chance I won't have to pay this because the government might forgive it at some point in time. So they may take on more debt than what they actually need to improve their lifetime earnings.
And another common question is the impact of the forgiveness plan on the country's already rising inflation, which Dr. Clark disputes.
It's very likely that these are relatively small changes in terms of inflationary pressures, regardless of what direction you're looking at.
And that relieving the debt is not a significant cost in the scope of U.S. economic spending.
There's a lot of student loan debt out there. The amount that would be paid, each month in terms of servicing that debt would be relatively small in terms of the grand size of the economy.
In Lexington, Jessica Umbro, WKYT.
Despite being struck down in court, President Biden has announced he still plans on providing some relief to borrowers, including easing borrowers into payments with less penalties for missed payments through September 30th of next year. Coming up on Mountain News at 11, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen visits Beijing in hopes of spurring healthy competition between our economies.
Plus, we continue to keep track of the potential for more showers and storms as we head toward the weekend. Those details coming up.
It is time to upgrade, and Appalachian Wireless has an